Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is AI-powered document processing with Astera. If you're joining us, feel free to say hi in the chat. Hi, Joshua. Let us know where you're joining from. We're a global company, so we have customers from all over the world, and so it's always exciting to see what regions we're reaching today. I'm also going to start a poll in a second. And would love your participation in that if you can. Just to get started, to kind of get familiar with who we have online today, we're going to ask what type of documents with unstructured data are you using the most in your organization, are most prevalent, but that's invoices, medical reports, finance. So I'm going to go ahead and start that, and you should be able to answer that. All right, we got Missouri, we got Texas. Awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Astera. If you're already familiar with us, if you are a customer, or maybe you're just familiar with us from online or social media, welcome back. We're happy that you're here. And if this is your first time hearing of us, if you're new to our company, we provide enterprise-grade code-free data management solutions. So we've been in this space for about 15 years. This ranges from anything from data integration, data warehousing, API management, EDI, and data extraction, unstructured data management, which is what we're talking about today. So really excited for that conversation. And if any of this at any point sounds interesting to you, feel free to let us know, and we'll get in contact and we'll see how we can help you get more value out of your data. So my name is Brooke Bethel. I work in marketing here at Astera. Very excited to be joining you today. And I also have Aisha Amjad here today, who is our AI and data extraction expert here at Astera, and who's going to be leading the discussion and going through a demo with you as well. So let me pull up our agenda today. So we're going to talk about data extraction approaches, our solution, which is called Astera Report Miner, what our take on generative AI is, how we're using that, and then talk about AI-powered document processing and show you the demo. And we'll have time at the end for questions as well, but if you have any questions that come up, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go. Yeah, and so with that, I will hand it over to Aisha.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us on this webinar. My name is Aisha Amjad, and I work as an AI product manager at Astera. Now, being an AI product manager actually means that much of my day is spent in figuring out how AI can solve the data management challenges faced by our customers and market in general that's dealing with a huge amount of data. And I've been in the interdisciplinary AI research for about a few years now with Astera, and I've witnessed how AI has enhanced and at times completely transformed our data management offerings. And one such offering is Astera Report Miner that we are going to be discussing today, and of course demonstrate the product as well. All right, so with that, let's begin. So now there are many approaches for extracting data out of unstructured reports and documents. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of some of the approaches that you're seeing on your screen. And some of these approaches are a long time running, such as manual data entry, where all we're doing is simply retrieving specific information from a source document and hand keying it into a target system. Now, of course, this method is easier to adopt, and I see so many people and so many companies still following this method because it's easier to adopt. Apparently, it also has a lower initial cost, but it is tedious. It is time consuming, and of course, it's highly prone to human errors. And when you look at it in the longer run, all of these factors combined makes it costly as well. So a lot of the firms outsource their data extraction tasks as well. And oftentimes manual data entry is used by the service providers who you are outsourcing your data to, which is a serious security concern as well, right? However, of course, there are traditional approaches and which are sophisticated as well. And some of those approaches are as old as manual data, for example, OCR and pattern matching. And both of these are often the backbones of many no-code data extraction tools that are present in the market today. Now, of course, each method has its areas of strength as well as limitations, so to say. But for example, if you talk about OCR, it can practically work with any format, and be it text or images. And when we talk about pattern matching, it can always guarantee 100% accurate results. So as I said, all of these approaches have their own strengths, and of course limitations as well. On the other hand, if we talk about modern approaches, you can see those on your screens as well, such as neural networks or large language models. And neural networks being RNNs, which are recurrent neural networks, they're widely used with textual data. LSTMs are used with textual data as well. Then there are other models like CNNs, convolution neural networks, that are used with images, particularly the digital image data, right? And the latest one, of course, being the use of large language models, which has been gaining a lot of popularity. And the reason is because they're fast, they're very, very capable, huge potential within these models, and they are excellent with varying layouts. And by that, I mean that if your files have continuously changing layouts, meaning that you are unable to predict what sort of format your next file will follow, or what sort of layout your next file will follow. So let's say, for example, you have around 100 different vendors, and each vendor has its own format of sending you purchase orders, or sending you invoices. And you keep on adding new vendors, hundreds of new vendors each month. And with all of those new vendors coming in, it's difficult for you to predict what sort of format or what sort of layout they're going to follow. And that is something that's where OCR and pattern matching often face difficulty with the amount of time and effort it takes to onboard all of those, or the data, or the data, or the unstructured data that's coming from all these new onboards, right? Now, since Report Miner, of course, uses a combination of AI as well as pattern matching approaches, our focus will be on these two for the rest of the session. Right.
Risha, as we're transitioning to talking about template-based data extraction, I want to talk about the results from that last poll on what type of documents are most prevalent at your organization. The majority for this audience is medical reports. We have quite a few with forms, but really we have folks in every category: invoices, purchase orders, and then we have some folks with contracts as well, and product quality and inspection documents.
Yeah, I see some in the chat as well. Thank you so much for that, Brooke. All right. So that's great. We have a diverse sort of audience here. So it will be a fruitful discussion, because I have a lot of different file formats prepared for the demo too. So let's take a look at it later in the demonstration. So now moving on to the template-based data extraction. Now, Astera Report Miner technology is primarily pattern recognition. It has been so for almost a decade now, which means that it creates templates based on pattern matching. And this method predates both neural networks and even OCR. And it's majorly used because number one, it's very fast. It's a more straightforward approach to data extraction, and it doesn't require a lot of knowledge or understanding of the process. For example, if you're working with neural networks, you need to have some understanding of how that works, right? So now it's ideal for large volumes of reports and documents that have minimal layout variations. That means if you were sure that, hey, I'm only going to receive these 10 formats, and there are going to be absolutely no variations in my formats, and every day I'm going to process around thousands of the files based on these 10 formats, then that's where the pattern matching template based approach is ideal. That's where it shines, right? And we can guarantee 100% accuracy as long as the pattern is matching, right? Okay, so I see a question, just to ensure I'm clear, which combo of OCR pattern and LLM that Report Miner uses. Okay, so Report Miner uses LLM and pattern as a combination, pattern matching as a combination for its AI recommended templates, but it also has OCR to deal with scanned documents. So that's how it works, right? Now, coming back to what I was talking about, now the pattern matching approach, or the template-based approach, it can technically work at any level of document complexity, and of course it accommodates any report layout as well. However, particularly building a template takes time and effort. Firstly, because it requires examining your entire file for a suitable pattern. And of course, but that's tedious. Secondly, it's not ideal approach when you have a large number of layouts that are different from each other and where you cannot predict future variations, right? Now, technologies have evolved to automate this process of for thousands of files with consistent layouts. However, to maintain this edge of delivering 100% accurate results while simultaneously reducing the time and effort that goes into creating these templates specifically for complex layouts is very essential. And one of the approaches that we've seen in our research over the years is to enhance the template based extraction with AI approaches rather than using these two independently, because as I said, both of these have their own limitations as well as strengths. So what we try to do is that we take the good things from the pattern matching, which is its 100% accuracy, and we take the great things from AI, which is its ability to understand these variations and make matchings, semantic matchings between words that have the same meaning, right? Or keywords or line items that have the same meaning. And its ability to extract data or its ability to understand data irrespective of its position in the text. So we take that from the AI, and of course we take this 100% accuracy aspect from pattern matching, and we combine it together. And the result is a fast, accurate, but equally flexible solution that caters to new variations. Right? And that's our approach.
All right, there's another question. When you're talking about similar formats, what if the structure is the same, but for example, the number of lines is different? So some comments occupy 2 lines and others may use 10 lines.
Right. So if we specifically talk about Report Miner, we have included features, small features within the product that actually helps you cater to this as well. So although it's based on pattern matching, and even without the AI, you can still extract data irrespective of whether it occupies 2 lines for a field or it occupies 10 lines for another element of the same field. So that's already possible. But of course, when we talk about AI, we don't have to think about a lot of heuristics to make this possible. With AI, it's more easily possible than I would say, as I said, with properties or with heuristics. I hope that answers your question. All right, moving on, AI-powered data extraction. Now, most of the world came to know about generative AI after the release of ChatGPT, but Gen AI has been around I think since last century. Firstly, in the faces of variational autoencoders, some of you may have heard of those, and later on in the faces of generative adversarial networks, and now large language models. But its usage wasn't something businesses were considering a few years ago, precisely because of lack of resources, like for example, computing power, as well as high per unit cost of running these generative AI models. In recent times, with the availability of powerful GPUs that we're seeing from NVIDIA, we're seeing many use cases of generative AI, specifically in the unstructured data management domain. By the way, when I'm talking about unstructured, I'm mostly referring to text data here. And the text data that contains paragraphs, that contains key value pairs, that contains line items. There are, of course, other types of unstructured data as well. As you can see on this diagram, that there are the speech, images, videos, social graphs, all of this is unstructured data as well. But since Report Miner specifically deals with unstructured text data and unstructured textual reports, of course, it deals with scanned images as well, but scanned images will have to have text in them for Report Miner to extract data from. That will be our focus. Now, talking about generative AI, it has made a lot of complex business cases possible and feasible as well. And one of the coolest things that generative AI does is extract entities from heaps of unstructured data. Now, we have had some methods before as well, such as name entity recognitions, but they usually end up failing when you have a lot of unstructured data and when there are different ways of writing certain sentences, especially when we talk about reports. They don't have sentences. They mostly have key value pairs or they have line items. And that's where name entity recognitions were not performing as we were expecting them to. Now, but generative AI does, and it does very well. and these, as I said, these entities could be your key value pairs, like for example account name or date or address that have one-to-one relationship, or these could be line items which are in a more tabular format on your files, like for example transaction codes or descriptions of each transaction, debit, credit, or when we're talking about medical information, they could be for example blood sugar levels of multiple patients, multiple rooms assigned to people, and so on and so forth. So a lot of different data that you can expect in a more tabular structure, right? Semi but tabular structure. Now what generative AI essentially does is that now before we actually even move to generative AI, what we do is that we take this messy data and we prepare it and we organize it, and thanks to some of the natural language processing methods like tokenization and part of speech tagging, that helps us sort of manage this before we send this to an LLM or before we send this to an AI model. Now, when we talk about tokenization, tokenization means that you're dividing your data into text chunks, meaning that an entire page is divided into paragraphs, and paragraphs are divided into sentences, and sentences into words, and sometimes for some models the words are also further broken down into characters. So that's what it means to tokenize a text document. Whereas part of speech tagging deals with the structure of a sentence. That is, a subject comes before verb, object comes after verb, or there's adverb in between, or any conjunctions, and so on and so forth. So that's what part of speech tagging is used for. Then once you've done all of this preparation process, then comes the large language model layer that are based off of transformers architecture. Most of you, in fact, I'm pretty sure all of you must have heard of GPT, and maybe some of you have also heard about BERT. Not sure if you know about OPT though, because I've come to know about it recently as well. I don't hear a lot about these models. But these transformer-based architectures are used behind some of the most powerful chatting tools that you must have been using, for example, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Llama. These are extremely powerful tools. And these models have shown remarkable performance with some of the downstream language tasks. For example, data extraction, Q&A, comprehension, sentence completions. And of course, they are used for working with multi-model tasks as well, meaning that the models are not just restricted to processing text, but they also process image, they also process video. Gemini being one of those examples as well. Whereas on the other hand, if we talk about GPT 3.5, that is particularly restricted to text, but GPT 3.4 and what I'm hearing about 5 is that that is also a model that deals with both images and text, and probably even speech as well, right? So now, how are these LLMs based off of transformers are making all of this possible? Now, there are, of course, several reasons behind that. One of the first reasons is that they are trained on literally all the data in the world. So they have very solid context, meaning that when you ask an LLM to extract some entities from an invoice, these models already understand what these entities are and what exactly is an invoice, or what exactly is a patient record, or what exactly is a purchase order. It also understands the differences between these, because that's how vast a data it has been trained upon. Right? And similarly, it also understands sort of the format and the most probable fields that it may have. So you go today and you just write on ChatGPT that, hey, tell me what sort of fields I can expect from an invoice, or produce an invoice sample. And trust me, you're going to get a very accurate depiction of how an invoice looks like, right? And similarly, you can do for other documents as well. The second reason is that these transformers, so when you see this T GPT and this T in BERT as well, and this T in OPT, that stands for transformers. And transformers have something called an attention mechanism, which means that it can decide at every step where and what input or output to give most importance to when it's performing any task, right? So for example, if I'm asking it to extract invoice number, it's going to go and just focus, sort of like give a laser focus on the invoice number, and not focus on, let's say, for example, date or line items or anything else. Similarly, it also has some additional components which are called self-attention, multi-head attention. I've written a couple of content pieces explaining all of these concepts in detail. So like if you guys have time, please feel free to check those out. So yeah, that's an entire, I would say, journey of AI powered data extraction when we talk about all of these language models. And of course we have made, with our research and with all of these information available, we've made use of this as well. Right. So before jumping into product demonstration, of course, I would like to give you an overview of Report Miner. Now, all the data management artifacts flow from a source point to a destination point. Of course, same is the case with Report Miner as well. Your source could be residing in any location. For example, they could be coming through an email, or they would be dropped in a folder or uploaded to a cloud drive. Anywhere possible, right? And this calls for a tool that can provide you access or native access to all these file storage locations, and that's what Report Miner does. So once you have access to your flat files or unstructured files, be it PDFs, text files, PRNs, or Word documents, it goes into Report Miner extraction engine, which you see in the middle part. And depending on the type of files you have and the type of use case you have, now it could either be ideal for an AI solution, or it could either be ideal for a complete pattern-based template solution. So for example, like if you have a small number of templates with less variations and have to process huge volumes of files on daily basis, which are following similar format, then template-based is the ideal solution. Whereas on the other hand, if you have files that have a lot of variations and they don't conform to a specific format, moreover, you are unable to predict what sort of variations may occur in your files in the future, that's where AI-based solution would work perfectly. Now, after the extraction comes the preparation part. So you would want to clean your data, validate it, and for doing so, you would want a framework that is preview-centric, or that allows you to explore your data, that allows you to identify and give full view of what sort of problems your data may have, or how it looks like how it looks like post extraction. That's where data prep artifacts it comes into play. Now, after the preparation and cleaning, you would map your data to a destination, be it a structured spreadsheet or database destination or any other destination of your choice that will eventually help you connect to your business intelligence tools, your ERP or CRM systems, or even send your data over APIs to another third-party application, right? Or your website for that matter. Now, supporting all of this is a powerful server, the ability to schedule jobs that you see in at the bottom of this diagram, the ability to schedule these jobs at a frequency that suits you, be it real time or specific timestamp, or on any date or day of the week. Similarly, you can obviously orchestrate your entire pipeline into a process that's something that's also supported in the tool. Similarly, you may want to give specific authorization and access to people within your organizations. That's where access management comes into play. And the data preview part is of course, it's a constant thing where you instantly preview your data at every step of the process, right? Now, the whole idea and one of the pointers that I want the audience to take away from this webinar is that AI is not the actual beast. It's amazing. It has amazing capabilities, but AI is not the actual beast here. It's all this powerful functionality supporting it and enabling an end-to-end use case. That's the hero here, I would say, right?
Great. And we're going to take a second to ask the folks who are joining us, are you currently using an automated solution already for unstructured data in your organization? So I'm going to drop up another poll in the chat. Y'all were so great humoring me with the last poll. So it should be appearing to you soon, and just let us know kind of where you are on your automation journey by answering that. Thanks.
Is the poll live, Brooke?
Yes, it's live.
Okay, all right, that's great. Okay, yeah, so continuing on, now Astera has been experimenting with several ML and vision techniques for a few years now. We've consistently worked on upgrading the algorithm design and logic behind the unstructured data extraction. We started off with the classical approaches of template-based extraction, and we continue to experiment with computer vision, heuristic-based automation capabilities to basically enable a more smarter and faster template generation. We understood that that's one of the key points, or that's one of the key pain points that customers have pointed to us over and over again. And these experiments resulted in several useful features, but that only helped us expedite a smaller segment of the process. But a full automated generation became possible with the use of large language models. Now, Brooke, are you sure? People are saying that they're not seeing the poll yet.
Yeah, it should
yeah,
be up. Let me know if you see it. Somebody let me know in the chat if it's popped up for you.
All right. So, yeah. Now, Astera's venture with generative AI in particular began with the release of GPT 3.5. I would say we have been in this research phase for some time now, but we were researching with ML and computer vision algorithms. However, specifically generative AI, we considered it when GPT 3.5 was released, and that resulted in the development of AI recommended templates and a few more AI features that we have offered over the last year. Now, the template now this AI template, the generative template, is a design time feature, meaning that it automatically generates a structured template on an unstructured report, basically with a single trigger. And over several experiments that we've done, we've realized and observed that it basically helps you eliminate almost 98 to 99% of the manual effort in the post-processing stage, meaning the stage where you would highlight the regions, detect a pattern, highlight the fields, add them to your data, name it, and so on and so forth. So all of this effort takes a lot of time. So it basically helps you eliminate all of that, and we'll see that in the demo as well. Right? The logic behind this architecture is that when we're extracting the data out of any unstructured file, we have some sort of output layout in our mind that we want to map our source data to, right? And that layout could be your target database or your CRM system, or something that your analysis team expects. So we've simply tried to reverse engineer the template by semantically mapping the output to the source or to the input. And this semantic matching and extraction is done by an LLM, because they're excellent at semantics and they're excellent at context-aware extraction. There are actually a lot of research papers, particularly on this topic as well, the topic of context-aware extraction. Now, of course, for a user, it's just clicking a single button, and you're providing the output meta that you want to map your source to, and that's it. Your template is automatically generated. So to see that, we have a couple of cases that we would like to focus on. First is the financial statement processing. So it'd be getting, of course, your financial data coming in, and it has a lot of unstructured reports like PDFs and text files, and it goes through an entire process. First, it goes into an AI recommended template, which generates the template. Then it goes into the preparation engine, which cleans and prepares it, and removes any inaccuracies from the data. Then, of course, we would like to validate the data against any business rules that we've developed. After that, we are going to either, of course, integrate it to a database, or we can simply load it into flat files or structured spreadsheets like Excel or comma separated files as well, right? And all of this data can eventually, of course, go into insights or whatever you may want to do with it, right? So that's the first use case. The second is automating patient report processing for improved healthcare analysis. Again, both of these use case, and if I talk about any use case that requires this entire extraction processing, or that requires extraction, basically goes through these steps. It has a very standard process, right? You're going to extract the data, you're going to, of course, prepare it, clean it, do some quality checks, and then load it into a destination. So it's a very standard process. So it doesn't matter whether you are from a financial industry, or you're from a healthcare industry, or you're processing bills, medical reports, and whatnot. Because the process is very standard, Report Miner caters to all industries, and that's the idea, right? And with that, Brooke, do you have anything to say before I share my screen and we can begin the demonstration?
Yeah, as we're transitioning to the demo, I just want to highlight the results of that poll. 71% of the folks here today are using manual processes for data extraction, which is great because it means you're in the right place and you're starting to think about AI and how it can help you.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, Brooke, is it visible?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Right. So this is for those of you who haven't seen Report Miner before, this is how the tool looks like. This is the UI, and there are a couple of windows or side panels to focus on. One is on the right side the right side of our screen, which is the Project Explorer, and this is where we basically compile or organize all of the flows, be it any sort of flows, extraction flow or preparation flow or process orchestration, scheduling flow, all of the flows in a single place. So it sort of gives you that organized feel. So as you can see, I have literally all of my projects in this one particular project for this webinar. So my bank statements, my financial statements, patient progress reports, some purchase orders as well. So all of this is into a single project. And on the left side of the screens, you can see data source browser, and this data source browser basically hosts all kinds of sources and formats that you may want to work with. So it could even be your database connections or your resource catalog sources, your project sources that are part of your project, anything from your local directory as well. And I don't probably because it's not part of my license, this particular license, but it also allows you to connect to any cloud connection, right? So that's the main idea when you open Report Miner. Now, jumping into what we are trying to achieve today. So as I said, our first use case is a financial data use case. Let me quickly open a financial document. So this is a financial document. It's a very standard financial document. I'm pretty sure anyone who's working with a finance industry or anyone who has ever seen financial documents would understand that this is a very, very standard document. So you would have some liabilities and equities. You have some assets here, and this is something that you would find in financial statements. And of course, similarly, there are other cash flow statements and so on and so forth. And all of these financial statements mostly have this kind of format. However, while this looks like a very standard format, there are some issues with it. So for example, it has a certain level of hierarchy. You see, there's liabilities and equities, and then under that there's current liabilities and so on and so forth. So oftentimes we have to deal with all of these hierarchies when we're extracting the data. Now, the idea is that we want to take this data from this unstructured report and sort of convert it into these two files or two formats. Now, one contains the assets, the other contains liabilities and equities. And like, there's no particular reason for doing that. You can just like imagine that, let's say my analysis team has asked me for these two files. One that contains only assets information, the other one that contains only liabilities information. And my job is to convert the data from this format on the left side of your screens to the format on the right side of your screens, which is an Excel spreadsheet, right? And so, yeah, let's begin. So the first thing that we do is we are going to add a report model. So I've already added a report model here, right? And let me just quickly give you an overview of the framework or the UI. So what you see in the center of your screen, first of all, I've already loaded the file, but what you see on the center of your screen is a designer, and this is Report Miner Designer. It basically, this is where your files are going to appear. So all your files or all your unstructured data is going to appear here. On the left side of your screens, you see a model layout. Your model layout, this is where the layout, the structured layout of your that you've built on your report is going to reflect. So it could have hierarchies, it could have field names, regions names, and so on and so forth. On the right side of your screens, you see properties. We're going to play with some of these properties, but because we're mainly going to focus on automating the entire template building process, so I'm pretty sure we won't have a use of all of these properties, right? So with that, let's begin. Now, you see these icons on the side of the screen, and one of these icons is this last one, which is create AI recommended layout. So we click on it, and as soon as we do, we have this build report layout open. Now, I've already have one layout fixed, but let me just check if this is the layout that we were seeking. So as I said, the idea or the logic behind this feature is that when we're extracting any information or any or data out of any unstructured document, the idea is that we want to map it to some sort of output. We have an output in our mind that, hey, this is what our output is supposed to look like. So all you have to do is just enter that output here. So all of this is editable, right? So I can add the output here. So let's say, for example, if my year is 2021, I can simply add that and update the layout, right? But it's 2023, so I'm going to stick with that. right? If I want to add more hierarchies to it, of course I can do that too. You can see here that I can add more members, more objects to it, but right now I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. So I just have this level of hierarchy in my files, and we're going to click on build using AI. That's going to quickly start the processing. Now, at times we can expect the layout to be like 100% fit, but of course you can expect some inaccuracies here, like some like moving of the field. So for example, if you look at here, I think this is good enough. We have all the information that we need. Yep, good. And if you click here, the financial elements, I see that it has captured most of the information and sort of like fully encapsulate the fields. If you look at the total values, right, so this one total value, as you can see, total liabilities, it's not really adjusting to encapsulate this entire field. So what we can do is that we have an option here, auto determine field names length, and when we click on it, it's going to do this. So as I said, I think in one of the questions that I was asked from the audience is that, do we have any feature that helps us quickly redeem some of the features? Yes, we do. As I said, you actually don't need AI for that. So there are small features, they're heuristic based, and when you encounter these small variations or these small problems in your data, you can just simply use them or make a use of them, right? But because of this entire automation, we have been using less and less of these properties. So unless if you have a very, very complex layout that AI has failed to generate any template for you, or has failed to recommend any template for you because it's that complex, then at that time we can make use of these properties. And I'm pretty sure, irrespective of how complex it is, one of the aspects or one of the strengths with pattern matching is that it can extract data out of any complex document, right? But of course that will take time and effort, and it won't be as simple as just clicking on a single button, right? So we have our data here. And as I said, the next step is to prepare it. And so what we do is that we bring it into a something that we called a data preparation engine. So we click on it, and as soon as we do, we'll have a So let's take a look at the profile. So the profile is pretty healthy. We don't see a lot of inaccuracies. In fact, we don't see any missing values here. So it's in a very good shape. However, there is a chance that we may want to do some pre-processing. So for example, let's say later on I want to do some calculations, and because I want to do those calculations, I cannot have these values with commas, or I cannot have it in a string format or with a string data type. Now if I try to convert it into a real data type right now, it's going to give me an error because it has these commas, right? And so one of the first things is that what I can do is that and this field also has the same problem. I can simply highlight this, and I can go right click, and I can do that, hey, I would like to clean it. So what do I want to do? I want to remove something, and maybe I want to remove some punctuations. So if you click on it, and if I see, okay, so I have an option of removing or getting rid of punctuations, but of course there are also other options, like you can get rid of white spaces and tabs and duplicate white spaces and letters, digits. Let's say, for example, if there is a digit written in place of a field that is supposed to have only letters, you can get rid of it. And of course vice versa. Similarly, if there's a special character that you would want to get rid of, and we'll use that too, you can use this option. So if we apply now, let's just select the fields that we wanted to. So the value was one of the fields, this one, and the value for, these are the two fields that we would like to apply this to. And as soon as we do, you can see that we don't see any punctuation marks here. Like a very straightforward, very simple way to, of course, do this. And now I can convert this into an integer. Oh, wait. Right, now I can convert this into an integer. Let me just expand this, and let's convert this into an integer. And it should work. Yep, it's working. Now let's do that with this one as well. Right. So similarly, now I can see that there are some errors here. So for example, this one, it's not converting to integer, which makes sense. It's an empty value. If I want, I can filter this out. That's another way to go about it. Similarly, if I want, I can remove this the dollar sign, right? The dollar sign doesn't classify as a punctuation mark, and this is where we can make use of that specified characters that we spoke about, right? But then data prep is not just about modifications and removing characters. It's basically there to clean your data. It's basically there to even put quality checks. So for example, let's say in this value field, the value year 2023, I know that the areas where I'm not seeing any value, or the places where I'm seeing a value of 0, that's not how it should be, because if it has a company name, which is the date range, and so on and so forth, if all the other fields are filled in, this value should also be filled in. So let's say this is just one of my rules, one of my business rules, right? So what I can do is that I can put up some sort of validation check for this. So we're going to right click on it, and we're going to add a validation check. So the validation check is, let's say, hey, no 0 values allowed. And we spot a 0, right? And it's an error, and all we're saying that, hey, if the value year 2023 is equals to, it should not be equal to a 0, right? Because we want this rule to fail for us to have an error, right? We would want this rule to fail, meaning that if it's not equals to 0, and if that fails, and whatever is equals to 0, it's going to flag that. So if I click on it and let's apply. So yeah, now we're seeing the value flagged here. So hey, we spot a 0 here, right? We can of course apply that to other fields as well. We can apply that to the rest of the fields. So that's the idea. As I said, data preparation or the data prep engine is basically there to help you with preparing your data, right? And now you can of course traverse to another artifact, which is the data flow. And data flow is where you can put a pipeline. You can map your data to some sort of destination. So before we jump into that, or before we try to actually create that, let's just quickly take a look at some of the artifacts that I've already created. So for example, we have this financial data. So we already have some financial data that we have prepared. So like we have done a lot of different tactics to it. We've done a lot of cleaning. So there were find and replace were also used. Some characters were removed. There was filter data and all of these sort of things. Similarly, let's take a quick look at the patient progress report, right? So, and let me also open that report, because I see a lot of people from the medical domain. So assuming we have some sort of patient progress report, and that includes some information on the patient, and and not just one patient, but also on several patients. And these patients could be through a specific provider, and that's why they are all in a single file, right? And they have some sort of information around them, like their therapeutic interventions, their complete blood count, troponin, their CC, all of these, their family history, social history, and all the sorts of information that you can expect from a medical document, right? And so we've already loaded that in Report Miner, so you can see that it's the same information that's there on our PDF files. Now it's in the Report Miner designer, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to click on this AI recommended template, and we have a specific layout that we want to map the patient progress report to, right? And it's a full hierarchical, and let's say this is a layout that my team expects me to map my source data to. So I'm just going to click on, hey, build this thing for me, and it's going to start building, right? So yeah, I have this entire layout, and if I do a quick preview, I should be able to of course preview all the information in a more structured format. So I have it literally in a matter of seconds. So all of this would have taken me a lot of time to create this entire format if I was doing a pattern matching approach. So I would match all these patterns, that hey, which pattern matches what, to highlight, and so on and so forth. So those of you who have worked with Report Miner would know that this approach of course takes time when you have complex layout, or when you have complex layouts to even build, or when you have a very large file. But that's where the AI actually helps you out, right? Now, once you are done with the report building, once you're done with the pre-processing, the next step is usually to map it to a final destination. So let's go back to our financial statement use case, and we have one of the data flows prepared. So what we're doing here is that we're taking that financial statement report model here. Sorry, not the report model, but the data prep that we've prepared. So and this data prep was actually reading source from our report model. And by report model, I mean this report model that we've just built, right? So it's consuming, so this report model is being consumed in this data prep flow where we are cleaning, preparing, and sort of doing all of those stuff. And this data prep is being consumed inside a data flow, and this is where basically you're loading your data into a database destination. So I have two destinations here. One, this destination I'm pretty sure is for assets, but let's take a quick look. But yeah, it's for assets, and the other destination is for liabilities. Let's take a quick look at that too. Yep, it is, right? And so let's do a quick start data flow. Let's wait a bit. And yeah, job complete successfully and has written into my database. Now let's take a look. I should have my, well, let's connect to a database quickly. And this was my database where I've put all my data, and it was in sample DB table. And so I have test assets and test liabilities. Let's quickly look at the records. So I have all my records here that I've written to just now. And similarly, I have all the records that I've written to a database table from the liabilities. Now I can share this with my analysis team, or I can share, like I created a delimited file. So I have another flow, a similar flow, but all it's doing is that it's taking a delimited file destination. So if I run this, it's going to take a delimited destination. Another thing that it's doing is that it's actually picking up all the PDFs that are there in my system. So if I quickly preview this, you can see there are many financial statements. So there is this financial statement sample, subsidiaries, interim financial report. So I have multiple financial statements, and I can process all of this with a single click. So all of the data that is residing in multiple financial statements, similarly, all of the data that will reside in multiple medical reports would be processed and would be sent into either a single file if that's your use case, but of course there are options to write it to multiple files as well. So you can just click on it, and you can also write it to multiple files if of course that's your use case, and that should write all of your data into a delimited destination, particularly for assets as well as liabilities. So that's it for the product demonstration. Brooke, do you have anything?
Great, thank you so much. So we're gonna transition back and talk a little bit about some extra features or reasons why Report Miner might be a good fit for you. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna drop another poll in the chat, one last one. And this is just asking what factors are influencing your decision to adopt AI-powered data extraction. So I'm gonna post that in the chat right now. Let me know if you see it. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, if you like the demo, but you want to know more specifically about how it's going to help your specific use case, I'm going to drop a link here as well. And what you can do is you can fill out that form, and we will create a personalized demo about your specific business needs and requirements, so you can kind of see it in action. And we'll have time for a Q&A as well. So if you have any lingering questions, Michael, I see one from you. We can do that as well. Aisha, do you want to talk about Report Miner, why Report Miner first, or do you want to jump into a question while we have?
We can talk about why Report Miner first, and then I can cater to Michael's question.
Great, sounds good. Let me pull this up here. All right.
Okay, perfect. Right. So of course there are different reasons of why you would why Astera Report Miner would be a good fit for your organization or for your data extraction use case, right? One of the first reasons is it has a no-code interface. When you're actually go down to code this entire process, and I've done that. I've coded the extraction process in different languages, especially in Python. It can get real hassle when I have to process a vast amount of files. and I don't get insights into how each file looks like. I don't have that UI to sort of look at how each file looks like. That's where no code interface really helps you out. And it's that aspect of just clicking, because that's what we are mostly used to. We've been using Excel for a very long time. We've been using all of these Microsoft tools. We're used to clicking on stuff and getting things done. So that's where, of course, no code interface approach definitely plays a huge part. The second is reusable AI generated templates. Yes, so one of the aspects is that AI is excellent. It's amazing. You've seen the capabilities. It does process like very fast. It's going to recommend you patterns. It's going to generate templates, and it's going to help you extract the file. However, an important aspect is for it to be reusable. So if let's say, for example, if I've created a template once on a medical report, I'm assuming, and I would expect from a tool that it will help me reuse it on multiple other documents as well. It may follow same layout, or it may follow slightly different layouts, but it should be reusable, and that's a very important aspect, and that's something Astera Report Miner does. Data preparation, of course, when you have unstructured data, it has a lot of inconsistencies. It has a lot of issues. Of course, the one that I showed, it didn't had a lot of issues, of course, but then your data could, and any data could, when we're dealing with real world problems, when we're dealing with real world data, it has a lot of inaccuracies and invalid entries, and sometimes even human errors that have resulted in those invalid values. And that's where you need a preview centric tool. That's where you need a tool that gives you insight into what sort of problems your data has, and that's where data preparation comes into play. Now, you could have any sort of file, any sort of format of unstructured data. It could reside in any place whatsoever. As I initially mentioned, that it could be coming via emails. It could be being dropped into your cloud drives, or being dropped into your local folders. And your tool needs to have access to those files. Your tool should be powerful enough to access it and sort of do that entire automation, and at the end gives you a structured format. And that's something that, of course, Report Miner supports natively. Complete workflow automation, we didn't have enough time to show this, but workflow automation is simply that, hey, you're creating a process where you're taking files from an entire folders, or like multiple folders, or you have like a vast amount of files, and you want to process all of that uh, uh, once in a schedule or whatever. And once that process is complete, you may want to send a notification email to your administrator, or you may want to have a notification email sent to you in case there are any errors, and maybe you would even want steps to rectify those errors. So that's where workflow automation comes in. So automation workflow is basically orchestrating or building a process on top of your data pipelines, and data pipelines is what we saw in the data flows. Connectivity to popular destinations, of course, that's very, very important. When you're extracting your data, you are going to load it into some destinations, and those destinations could be databases, like vast amount of different databases, CRM systems, and you may even want to send them to another third-party application or your website over APIs, and all of that is something that's supported. You can see, of course, we didn't have enough time to show everything in the demonstration, but that's something you can see on our websites, in our videos, and all the contents that we've posted. And as Brooke said, feel free to reach out to us and talk to us about all of these features, and we would be happy to show that to you. Moving on, the ETL engine. The ETL engine is very powerful. It supports all sort of transformations. The quality aspect is there. You can we've just seen a very, I would say, a very minute version of what data quality is for Enterprise, but it has huge capabilities within data prep as well as within data flows. Performance optimization, of course, when you're dealing with unstructured data, text data, and specifically large amount of volumes, performance optimization is very, very important. Your tool needs to be fast. Even if it's using AI, it still needs to be fast. And understand, these large language models are a bit slow. That's how their architecture is, but it still needs to be very fast. When you just click and go push, it creates something for you. User authorization and authentication. Again, this is something that we didn't, of course, discuss in the demonstration, but you'll find a lot of material on our websites for this. You can assign specific roles to people in your organization if you don't want them to access some of the files or some of the folders. Then that's something where user authentication or user authorization would come into play. And monitoring features. The monitoring feature works in both job monitor as well as job trace. So if you encounter any errors, any issues during that process, there's an entire job trace that you'll find, and that will help you locate if there are any errors, or that will help you locate, hey, how many of your jobs were successful, or how many of your jobs ended in errors. And with that, whenever you're selecting for a data extraction tool, I would recommend you to look at all of these features and make a checklist of these, that hey, when I'm looking at an extraction tool, these are the features that it should have. And I would like to reiterate again, one of the key aspects, or one of the key takeaways that I want the audience to take from this is that hey, AI is amazing, it's excellent, it has a lot of potential, but it's not the actual hero here. The actual hero is all that functionality that encapsulates it, that surrounds it, and that functionality is what you see on your screens. And I guess that's about it. I guess, Brooke, we can take the questions.
Great, thank you. And just want to highlight, speaking of like factors that you're looking for in an automated solution, results of the poll, most folks are looking for cost effectiveness and ease of integration with existing systems are our leading answers on that poll. And then with that, we have a question from Michael. What are the primary limitations and challenges faced by AI document processing systems, particularly when dealing with noisy or low quality documents, languages with complex syntax and semantics, or tasks requiring deep contextual understanding, such as legal document analysis or medical record interpretation?
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's an excellent question, actually. So we understand that AI itself has a lot of challenges, and I think and limitations as well. And anyone who's working with AI would have an idea about them. One of the things is the hallucination part. So if your AI or if your large language model is not trained on a specific domain, and your domain, let's say for example, being legal domain, if your LLM is not fine-tuned or not trained on your legal domain, it's going to have problems. It's going to have problems extracting values. It's going to have problems understanding what sort of values to extract, right? And I remember, in one of the researchers, I was trying to fetch some records. It was a very simple use case. I was just trying to fetch records from a purchase orders from Llama 2, I think, and I was trying to extract the same records from GPT-4. And what I found out was that sometimes the way you pose a question, the way you give examples make a huge difference. So when we're dealing with AI, what sort of language your model understands, what sort of language your AI model is going to understand, that's another one of the limitations that it has. When we're dealing with low quality documents or noisy data, now, one of the things is that you have to pass it through some pre-processing layer before you send it to AI, right? So for example, if it's a lot of noisy data and it's a scan document and you're expecting a lot of check marks and all of these things, is going to process through an OCR or anything, any of that document. And if you don't clean it before you send it to an AI, you can expect inaccurate answers, because as I said, it will go through each word. Another way to sort of avoid this problem that I've experimented with is that when you're communicating with an LLM, that means when you're sending a prompt, you can add additional instructions that hey, don't give attention to noisy data, or just to get rid of all the noisy data. If you're dealing with images, there are other ways to get rid of noisy data as well. There are particular filters that you can apply to get rid of that noisy data before you send it to an LLM. With text data, however, it's slightly unfortunate. That's something we cannot do very well. There are libraries in Python that can help you clean or get rid of that noisy data, but they're not as effective as, of course, we would like them to be. And this is where you can fine tune your LLM. Fine tuning task again has its own limitations, but we try to salvage whatever we get, and that's why one of the things that I said is that AI is amazing. It has excellent capabilities, but you need to focus on all the other functionality that is currently supporting AI. AI on its own itself has a lot of issues, and you won't just be able to make use of that and extract and do a full-fledged extraction process. So that will be my answer to your question, Michael.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for this last question, and then we'll wrap it up. How much time will it save if we use a tool like Astera Report Miner, going from template-based extraction to AI-based?
Okay, yeah. So over our research, and this is like I remember I set up like a team of 20 people, and all of us were creating templates, and some like half of us were creating templates on the same files, and half of us were using this AI recommended template feature. And what we figured out is that the time that we are saving by using AI recommended is almost 10 folds. That means if it takes you 10 minutes to create a template, and trust me, it does. I've been using it for a very long time, and it does take you, like, if you're excellent at it and you have a very simple format, it's going to at least take you 5 minutes. But 10 minutes is more realistic. So it's going to take you 10 minutes, whereas you have seen with your own eyes, right? It's like hardly a few seconds. And I've just created a single template with AI recommended. There's another feature where you can dump all your files in a folder, and on a single click you can generate templates for all the files. So be it like 10 files, 20 files, 100 files, it's like on a single click. But of course, this just doesn't use AI. It has like additional layers and validation checks, and some heuristics involved as well, that helps you not get into the troubles of all those problems that AI has.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate you taking an hour out of your Thursday to talk about AI-powered document processing with us. Once again, if you have any lingering questions, if you take a moment, you think about what you saw today, and you do have questions, please feel free to get in contact with us. We have a QR code on the screen and also that link in the chat, and we can talk about doing a personalized demo for you, or just answering any questions that you have. We're happy to do that. So thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.